Hi everyone, you're welcome back to my channel today. Thank you so much for stopping by. In this video, we'll be drafting out this underbust corset dress that you can see on your screen. If you're interested, keep on watching and let's get started. So this particular video is going to be the pattern drafting, and in the next tutorial we're going to be sewing it. So I already have my pattern paper folded into two, and I'll go ahead and start taking my points. The first point I'll take is the distance from my shoulder to my bust point, which is 10 inches. The next point is the distance from my shoulder to my under bust point, which is 13 inches. I'll also indicate that. The next point is the distance from my shoulder to my waist point, which is 16 inches. I'll go ahead and indicate the 16 inches, and I'll rule straight lines across all these points. So go ahead and measure yourself and use the measurement to mark out your points. So I'm going to label my lines. I have the bust line, the under bust line, and the waistline. The next thing I'll do is to place half of the shoulder measurement I'm working with, which is 8 inches. The shoulder measurement I'm working with is 16 inches. 16 divided by 2 is 8 inches. On that 8 inches mark, I'll go down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope, and I'll slant from that point into the neckline area like this. Next thing I'll do is to determine the type of neckline that I want. So it's totally up to you and what you want. For the width, I'll be using 3 inches for now. Okay, and for the depth, I'll also go down by 3 inches. I'll not be using this neckline. I'm just taking this neckline just so you guys understand what I'm trying to do. So the neckline depends on what you want. The next thing I'll do is to get my chest line. To do that, I'm going to go up by 2 inches from my bust line. Okay, so I'm going to go up by 2 inches. My bust point is 10.5 inches. I'm going up by 2 inches. Okay, so I'll mark 2 inches as you can see me doing, and I'm going to rule a straight line across. After doing that, I'll label this new line my chest line. Okay, another way to go to get your chest line is to go down from your shoulder slope, okay, by half of your round armhole measurement, and it's also going to give you your chest line. So next thing I'll do is to place the same measurement that I have on the shoulder line, which is 8 inches. I'll place that same measurement on the chest line, and I'll indicate it with a dot. The next thing I'll do now is to connect the two dots together. So the dot that I have on the shoulder slope, I'll connect it to meet the dot that I have on the chest line like this. The next thing I'll do is to place my tape on that straight line, and I'm going to divide what I have into two. Okay, so I'm placing my tape on the shoulder slope, and what I have is 7 inches. I'm going to divide it into two. Half of 7 inches is 3.5 inches. I'll indicate the 3.5 inches with a dot. On that dot, I'm going to come in like this by half an inch. I'll also indicate the half an inch with a dot. On the chest line, I'm going to place my bust circumference divided by 4. Okay, so place your bust circumference divided by 4 and also go ahead and indicate the measurements. After doing that, I'm going to use my ruler to connect from the shoulder slope to meet the half an inch that I have here, and from there to meet the dot on the chest line like this. Next thing I'll do now is to take my dart. To do that, I'm going to take half of my nipple to nipple measurement. My nipple to nipple measurement is 8 inches. Half of it is 4 inches. I'm going to place my tape on the center front, and I'll take 4 inches on the waistline. I'll take the same 4 inches on the under bust line. I'll take 4 inches on the chest line. After doing that, I'm going to connect 3 dots into a straight line. So guys, next thing I'm going to do is to take half an inch on the center front. So the center front is the side that is facing me. So I'm going to take half an inch on the waistline and half an inch on the under bust line. So I think this half an inch should be enough for everybody. On the side front, I'm going to be taking 1¼ inch. So if you are busty, you can do 1.5 inches or 2 inches. It depends on how busty you are. So for me, I'll just take 1¼ inch on the waistline. I'll take the same 1¼ inch on the under bust line. So for the center front, if you are very busty, you can take 1 inch instead of half an inch, but I feel like half an inch is okay. So what I'm going to do is to connect the 2 dots into a straight line on the center front, and I'll do the same thing on the side front. After doing that, I'm going to go down on the bust line by 1 inch. Okay, this is to avoid any sharp curve. So I'm going to indicate the 1 inch. After doing that, I'm going to use the curved part of my ruler to connect from that 1 inch to meet the under bust line, as you can see. So make sure the curve you are going to have here is not a straight line and is not too curvy, as you can see me doing. If you don't have a ruler, you can also use your free hand. Okay, after connecting, this is what I have. The next thing I'll do is to place my tape on the remaining part of this shoulder area, and I'm going to divide what I have there into two. Okay, so to get what I have there accurately, I'm going to fold my tape into two, as you can see me doing, and I'm going to mark the middle point. I'll indicate the middle point with a dot. After doing that, I'm going to use my ruler to connect from that center to meet the bust line. Okay, the dart leg that we have on the bust line, I'm going to connect like this. So guys, the next thing I'll do is to determine how deep I want my yoke to be. So my chest line right now is about 8 inches, so I want to go up by 1 inch. That is 1 inch away from my chest line. That is how deep I want the yoke area to be. You can do half an inch, you can do 1.5 inches, you can do 2 inches. Okay, so I'm going to go up by 1 inch and I'm going to rule a straight line across. So this line is going to serve as my new chest line. So what I'm going to do now is to tighten my over bust to avoid gaping. So on the center front, which is the side facing me, I'm going to take half an inch for the over bust tightening, and on the side front I'm going to take 1 inch. I'll indicate the measurement with a dot, as you can see. After doing that, I'm going to use my ruler to connect from that point to meet my bust line like this. So after connecting, I'm going to go ahead and blend this center just so everything sits together, and if there's any sharp edge, go ahead and blend everything in. After blending, guys, I'm going to go ahead and start placing my measurements. So on the chest now, we already have my bust circumference divided by 4. So what I'll do is to replace this dart right here. Okay, I'm going to mark out what I took for the dart. I'll replace it and then I'll connect the armhole area to meet that line like this. After doing that, I'll place my waist circumference divided by 4 on the waistline. I'll replace the dart of 2 inches and I'm going to connect from the chest line to meet the waistline. So I'm not adding stitching allowance yet. I'm going to add stitching allowance on the fabric when I'm cutting. So I'll just go ahead and connect from the chest line to meet the waistline like this. After connecting the lines, I'm going to go ahead and outline the under bust line. I'll make it more visible because I'm going to cut it out later. So after outlining the under bust line, I'm going to go ahead and label my pattern. So I have the center front, which is the side facing me, and I have the side front. I also have the yoke. Okay, after labeling my pattern, I'm going to go ahead and cut. So guys, pay close attention so you know where to cut. So I forgot to take the neckline, so I'm going to do that now. So I want like a sweetheart neckline and I want to maintain the previous chest line. That is the first chest line before I went up by 1 inch. Okay, it depends on how deep you want your neckline to be. You can even bring it down to your bust line if you want it to be very deep, but I'll be stopping at the chest line. That is the previous chest line. So I'm going to connect from this dart leg to meet the chest line. So I went down by half an inch from the previous chest line, but I'm not going to cut it out when I'm cutting from the previous chest line. I hope you guys are not confused, and you don't have to do this neckline. You can decide to just leave it the way it is, but I just want a sweetheart neckline. So I'm going to just connect this part like this to meet the armhole area. So I'm using my marker to make all these points visible just so I know where to cut. Okay, So guys, after cutting, this is what I have. Okay, so this is my yoke. This is my center front, which is on fold, and I have my two side fronts. Okay, I'm going to arrange it for you guys to see, and we are still going to cut out the under bust, but this is what we have right now. Okay, these are bustier pattern. So guys, what I'm going to do next is to remove the under bust from this pattern. Okay, so earlier on I outlined the under bust just so I know where it is. So what I'm going to do is to arrange my pattern paper in place, and I'm going to cut out the other part from this under bust line, as you can see. So I'm cutting from 13 inches, which is my under bust line. What I have left here is 3 inches. That's the distance from my under bust to my waistline. Okay, so after cutting out, this is what I have. What I'm going to do now is to join these pieces together. So make sure you know where the upper part is and where the down part is. Okay, so for me, the wider part is my own upper part. Okay, so it was easy for me to know where the upper part and the down part is. So go ahead and join the 3 pieces together. After doing that, I'll label my up and down just so I don't get confused. Okay, so go ahead and do that. So guys, after joining the pieces in place, I've made it into just one piece. So this is what you can see on the thumbnail. This is the exact style that is on the thumbnail. The yoke is in full. Okay, so if you want to sew exactly what you can see on the thumbnail, just go ahead and place this on your fabric. Add your stitching allowance to the bustier area. Remember, we didn't add our stitching allowance. Okay, but for me, I want a basque waistline for this down part. So what I'm going to do is to bring in my pattern, the one that we joined together. Also bring in this excess pattern paper. Okay, because I want to increase the length of this waistline. So I'll open up my pattern paper and I'm going to place them side by side. Okay, I'm not using anyone to overlap the other. I'm just going to place them side by side, as you can see, and I'll use my masking tape to hold it down. Okay, so after doing that, guys, this is what I have. So I'm going to fold it into 2. Okay, you know the waistline has a center from where we drafted out our pattern, so I'm going to maintain that same center. So what I'll do now after folding is to go down from the previous waistline. Okay, I'll go down by how deep I want my basque waistline to be. So I'll be taking 6.5 inches, which I think is too much. I think 5 inches should be the maximum. Okay, so I'm going to now go down from the waistline by 1 inch. As you can see, I'll connect from the previous waistline to meet this 1 inch that I went down with, as you can see me doing, and then I'm going to connect from the back to meet that 1 inch. But before I connect, I'm going to go inward by half an inch on this basque area. Okay, I'll go inward by half an inch. I'll indicate the half an inch. Okay, after doing that, I'm going to now connect from that half an inch to meet the 1 inch mark, just like this. After doing that, I'm going to go ahead and cut. So guys, after cutting, this is what I have. Like I mentioned earlier, I feel like this basque waistline is too long, so I'm going to adjust it when I'm cutting on my fabric or when I'm sewing. And I also don't want to use the yoke like this. So as you can see on the thumbnail, the yoke is in full. Okay, and I used a mesh net to cut out the yoke, but I don't want a yoke for mine, so I'm making alterations to the yoke too, because I want like a Queen Anne neckline for mine. So in order to achieve that, what I'm going to do is to place my tape on this armhole area, and I'll come inward by 4 inches, which is how wide I want the the shoulder area to be, sorry. And from this line that I have on the shoulder line, I'll go inward by 1 inch. You can choose to maintain that same line depending on how wide you want your Queen Anne neckline to be. So what I'll do is to now connect from that point to meet the 4 inches mark. Okay, in the slant. After doing that, I'll go ahead and cut out. So this is what I have for the yoke. Okay, so you must not do what I'm doing. You can decide to use the yoke on the thumbnail, but this is what I want for mine. Okay, so after cutting out the yoke, these are all the patterns that you'll be needing for this tutorial. So I have the yoke, I have the center front and the 2 side fronts, and I also have the basque waistline. Okay, so these are all the patterns you'll be needing for the front. So I'm going to go ahead and draft out the back pattern. So guys, for the back, I'll go ahead and start taking my points just like we did for the front. I'll take the distance from my shoulder to my bust point, which is 10 inches, the distance from my shoulder to my waist point, which is 16 inches. So we don't need the under bust line for the back. And if you want to add a zipper to your dress, go ahead and take your zipper allowance first before you start taking your points, okay? So I'm going to rule straight lines across all the points. 10 inches is distance from my shoulder to my bust point, 16 inches is distance from my shoulder to my waist point. The next thing I'll do is to take half of my shoulder measurement, which is 8 inches. I will indicate the 8 inches with a dot. After doing that, I'll go down on that 8 inches dot by 1 inch for my shoulder slope, and I'll slant from that point into the neckline area. After doing that, guys, the next thing I'm going to do is to take my neckline measurement. For the width, I'll be using 4 inches. Remember when we drafted out the front, I took 3 inches for the width, and then I later took out 1 inch while I was adjusting the shoulder area, so it made it 4 inches. So I want the shoulder for both the front and the back to meet up. So the shoulder for the front is 4 inches and the shoulder for the back is 4 inches, as you can see. The next thing is to take the neck depth, which I took 1.5 inches, okay? So I'm going to connect from the neck width to meet the neck depth like this. After doing that, guys, next thing I'm going to do is to get my chest line. So just like we did before, I'll go up by 2 inches from my bust line, okay, and I'm going to rule a straight line across that point. So guys, I have the chest line, the bust line, and the waistline, okay? So I'm going to place my tape on the measurement that I have on the shoulder line, which is 8 inches. I'm going to place that same measurement on the chest line. I'll indicate it with a dot. After doing that, I'm going to connect from the shoulder slope to meet this point, okay? After doing that, guys, this is what I have. The next thing I'm going to do is to place my bust circumference divided by 4 on the chest line. I'll indicate that with a dot, and then I'll place my tape on this straight line and I'll divide it into 2. What I have is 7 inches. Half of 7 inches is 3.5 inches. I'll indicate the 3.5 inches with a dot. From that dot, I'm going to now connect to meet the dot that I have on the chest line like this. After doing that, guys, the next thing I'll do is to take in my dart. So for this tie, the dart is not really important, especially if you want to add a loop or eyelet to the back, okay? But if you're adding a zipper, go ahead and take in your dart. So I'll be taking half of my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 4 inches. I took the 4 inches on the chest line, on the bust line, and on the waistline. I'll connect the 3 dots into a straight line. After doing that, on the chest line, I'm going to go down by 1 inch, and on this dart leg, I'm going to take half an inch on both sides. After doing that, I'm going to use my ruler to connect from the half an inch to meet the 1 inch. So guys, after taking my dart, the next thing I'm going to do is to place my measurement. I already have my bust circumference divided by 4 on the chest line. What I did was to add 1.5 inches for my stitching allowance. On the waistline, I placed my waist circumference divided by 4. I'll replace this dart of 1 inch. After replacing the dart, I'll add 1.5 inches for my stitching allowance. After doing that, I'll connect from the chest line to meet the waistline like this. So guys, like I mentioned earlier, if you want to add zipper to your dress, make sure you leave out your zipper allowance, okay, of 1.5 inches or 2 inches at the back before you start placing your measurement. But I'll be adding loop to mine. That is why I did not add any zipper allowance to the back. So I'm going to go down from this neckline by 1 inch because I want the back area to also be opened, okay? So I went down by 1 inch. I'm going to now connect from that 1 inch to meet this dart leg. That is how opened I want the back of my dress to be. If you don't want the back of your dress to be too opened, you don't have to connect it from that 1 inch to meet the dart leg. You can just make it as tiny as possible, okay? So I didn't add zipper allowance. I also want to reduce the back, okay, because since I'm adding loop, I want to tie everything and I don't want it to overlap. So I'm going to reduce this back piece by 1.5 inches, okay? Even if you're adding eyelet or loop, go ahead and reduce the back, okay? So I'm taking out 1.5 inches. You can do 2 inches or 3 inches, depending on how open you want the back of your dress to be. So I'm going to now connect this 1.5 inches dot into a straight line, as you can see. So this is the point that I'm going to cut out. And if you also want a yoke for the back of your dress, you are going to split this pattern paper into two and use the upper part as your yoke, especially if you are using another fabric like a lace or mesh for the yoke part. So you are going to detach it. It's not going to be one pattern paper, but I'm using Ankara for the back. I'm using my Ankara, so I don't want to cut out the yoke. I just want to cut it out just the way it is. So what I'm going to do now is to go ahead and cut. So if you want to add a yoke, go ahead and split from this chest line, okay, and then cut out the yoke separately. But this is how I'm going to leave mine, okay. After cutting, this is what I have. So guys, that is all for the back pattern. If you want a yoke, go ahead and split it, okay. Just split it from this point that you can. So guys, for the skirt part, I'll be using my Ankara print, okay. I'm using 3 yards of Ankara fabric, but you can use 2.5 yards because I'll be mixing it with a black doll face, okay. So my table is quite small. I'll be showing you guys how I'm going to fold my fabric for this skirt part, okay, before I bring in the main fabric, okay. So I went ahead to fold it into two, as you can see. On that edge, I'm going to take out my zipper allowance. Let's say my zipper allowance is 2 inches. I'm going to mark the 2 inches, as you can see me doing. After doing that, I'll connect into a straight line, okay. So that part is going to serve as my zipper allowance. So what I'll do is to now fold the other part over, okay. I'm not going to cover the zipper allowance, okay. I'm just folding it to that zipper allowance line, okay. So I'm cutting out both the front and the back. So there's this folded edge and 2 opened edge. The 2 opened edge area is going to be the back piece, okay, because it has the zipper allowance, and the folded edge is going to serve as the front piece because the center front is supposed to be on fold. I hope you guys are not confused, okay. So once I'm taking my measurement, I'm taking it towards me, okay. So that is how I folded my fabric. You can see my zipper allowance and you can see the folded edge. I'm going to use my chalk to indicate the zipper allowance, okay, just so you guys are not confused. So this is my zipper allowance, okay. So it has this 2 open edge while the front has this folded edge. So I'll go ahead and trim off this salvage edge and I'll go ahead and start placing my measurements. So the first thing I'll do is to determine the length of my dress. To do that, you're going to take out your half length, okay. So for my half length, I took 16 inches, which is the distance from my shoulder to my waist, okay. From that, take out the 16 inches and then mark out the length of your skirt. So the length of my dress is going to be 60 inches, okay. As you can see, I already took out the half length, okay. Next thing I'll do is to take the distance from my waist to my hip, which is 8 inches. I'm going to mark the 8 inches, as you can see me doing, and I'm going to rule a straight line across. So this line is my hip line, while the start of this fabric is my waistline. After doing that, I'm going to place my measurement. The waistline, which is the start of my fabric, I'm going to place the waist circumference divided by 4. I will indicate that. So take note that I'm taking my measurement after the zipper allowance. The zipper allowance is not included in all these measurements, and I'm going to add 1.5 inches to that measurement for my stitching allowance. So this dress has a Basque waistline, so I'm not going to take in my dart, okay. So if you're not doing a Basque waistline, go ahead and add 1 inch for your darts. On the hip line, I'll take my hip circumference divided by 4. I'll also add 1.5 inches to that measurement for my stitching allowance. After doing that, I'm going to connect the dots on the waistline to meet the dots on the hip line like this. Next thing I'll do is to place my tape on the hip line, and I'll measure what I have. What I have there is 11 inches. I'm going to subtract 2 inches from what I have on the hip line, and I'll place it on the skirt length. I'm doing this because I want the skirt to be fitted, but if you don't want yours to be fitted, you can go ahead and connect straight down from the hip line to meet this skirt length. But since I want mine to be fitted, I placed 9 inches on the skirt length, so I'm going to connect from that hip line to meet the 9 inches that I have on the skirt length, as you can see me doing. After connecting, I'll go ahead and cut. After cutting out, I'm going to open it up for you guys to see. So like I said earlier, if you're adding that to your skirt, go ahead and add your dart allowance on the waist area. So this is my front piece. Okay, the center front is on fold, so I have just one piece for the front. For the back, I have 2 pieces because that is where I'm going to be fixing my zipper. Yeah guys, that is all for the pattern drafting of this dress. We are going to continue in the next tutorial, so don't forget to like this video, leave your questions in the comment section. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.